Welcome to EPG Pathshala. Myself, Sonakshi Vichare, Assistant Professor in SNDT College of Arts, Commerce and Science, Churchgate, Mumbai. Today I am going to speak on the module titled Paulo Freire. Paulo Freire is known as the Rousseau of the 20th century. He was so called because of his concept of freedom and his practice in the field of education. Rousseau, as we all know, was a great advocate of human freedom which he saw trampled everywhere. He was also a great advocate of people's education as his treatise Emile testifies. Paulo Freire's work, both theoretical and practical, on the educational methods and practices of the oppressed people gave rise to a qualitative changes in the concept of adult education. He philosophically understood the concept of literacy and saw it as a means to the physical and mental liberation of the people. He connected literacy with physical and mental liberation of the person as a philosophical understanding of the concept of literacy. He also brought about revolutionary innovations in the techniques of making a person literate. This could be seen to evolve from the same philosophical grounding. In this unique method of spreading literacy, a person could be made literate within a period of 30 hours. Let us understand the learning objective. Learner will be able to ascertain the relationship between social, economic and political factors, and education explains the pedagogy of oppressed, discuss the concept of banking of education and its delimitations, analyze dialogue methods and its principles. Biographical outline. Paulo Freire was born on September 19, 1921. He was the youngest of 4 children. His father was an army officer and his mother was a housewife. In his childhood, Paulo learned the alphabets under the mango tree in the garden of his house while playing with his parents. It was a very unconventional way, lively, natural, free and interactive. This kind of initiation into literacy influenced him greatly and was instrumental in his discovery of his unique methods of spreading literacy. The economic crisis of 1929 greatly affected the Freire's family. His father could not cope with the cost of living in Recife. He was therefore forced to shift to nearby town of Jobato. There he lost his father, who was the only earning member of the family. Paulo was only 13 at that time. As a result, Paulo Freire could not afford paying school fees and dropped out. He again was once admitted to school at the age of 16 on a free studentship granted by a school in Recife. Paulo was like a free bird at Jaboatão. Many of his playmates came from poor families. Through his acquaintance with these children, Paulo picked up their rustic language. Later he came to appreciate the beauty of this language. On successful completion of his schooling, Paulo was admitted to the University of Recife. He was then 20. Here he met Elisa Maria Costa de Oliveira. She was 5 years senior to him. He married Elsa in 1944. Elsa helped Paulo to develop his unique method of literacy. Paulo Freire joined the Social Service of Industry, that is SESI, in 1946. He was associated with it for 8 years. It was an employers' organization. Its aim was to assist in the workers' children's education. His work at SESI brought him face to face with the stark reality of the working class. While working with the working class children, Paulo Freire discovered that dialogue was the best teaching method. He was then heavily immersed in studying the best writers of Brazil. This newly gathered knowledge was instrumental in his finding his unique method of literacy. Later, he left SESI to join the Cultural Extension Wing of the University of Recife. In 1950, he discovered his unique method of literacy. In 1959, on writing his thesis, Present Day Education in Brazil, he earned his PhD degree. The evolution of his theory of knowledge was closely connected with the living conditions of the poor in his home state. They were victims of the cultures of silence. It was necessary to break this vicious culture. His first large-scale experimental work took place in Angicos, a place in the state of Rio Grande do Norte. 300 farmers learned to read and write within a period of 45 days. Seeing this, faced João Goulart, the president of Brazil, and Paulo de Tarso, the Minister of Education, invited Paulo Freire to take charge of the Brazilian National Literacy Mission. Paulo conceived of 20,000 cultural circles to make 2 million people literate. This and other pro-people activities of the government infuriated the ruling class. A military group deposed Goulart and Freire was arrested. After 75 days of captivity, Freire was allowed to leave the country. He went first to Bolivia and following a coup there, he took refuge in Chile. In 1967, Paulo Freire wrote Education as the Practice of Freedom, and in 1970 his most important book, Pedagogy of the Oppressed, was published. Educational Thought of Paulo Freire. Paulo Freire's major contribution was to provide a theoretical foundation to adult education. Adult education was previously equated with alphabetization. If a person could write his or her name, identify street names, read the bus numbers, etc., it would be considered a great boon for literacy. In India, most of the educated people view adult education in this light. Freire discarded all these notions. He linked literacy with the liberation and culture. According to Freire, the role of the human being was not only to be in the world, but to change in the relation with the world through the acts of creation and recreation. Man and woman creates a cultural reality and thereby add to the natural world which he or she did not make. We were certain that man's or woman's relation to reality, expressed as a subject to an object, results in knowledge which man or woman could express through language. Let's discuss some ideas given by Freire on culture of silence. The social, economic and political factors of country influences the education system. According to Freire, the culture of silence starts with the dominance of one group on another. Poverty in the society is the major reason which comes with the illiteracy. The poverty makes people helpless and hopeless, and in the process people lose their voice and do not raise questions for the situations or for the self. This leads to a culture of silence. In such situation, one group dominates over the other and the gap between haves and have-not keep increasing, and certainly not the development. According to Freire's, education is a mean by which people can perceive, interpret, criticize and finally transform the world about them. Freire wanted to break the culture of silence, and which is possible through the process of liberation. The process of liberation should not limit to individual but should be considered as social process, because the dehumanization of man has been taking place as the product of an unjust and exploitative social order. The poor do not always look at the world in the manner the elite look at it. Self-depreciation is another characteristic of the oppressed, which derives from their internalization of the opinion the oppressors hold of them. So often do they hear that they are good for nothing, know nothing and are incapable of learning anything, that they are sick, lazy and unproductive, that in the end they become convinced of their own unfitness, says Freire. This idea was later explained by Freire. Thus, in the culture of silence, The masses are mute, that is, they are prohibited from being, even if they cannot occasionally read and write because they are taught in humanitarian and not humanist literacy campaigns. They are nevertheless alienated from the power responsible for their silence. This culture of silence has to be broken. The liberation process begins with the awakening of the oppressed as he or she start to know the word and the world. Therefore, the struggle for liberation must be carried out by the oppressed to restore the humanity of both the oppressors and the oppressed. The oppressor class is too dehumanized to lead a liberation struggle as it has thrived on the dehumanization of the oppressed. However, in this liberation struggle that has to be carried out by the oppressed, there can be a danger that the oppressed behave like an oppressor. The oppressed at first tend to see liberation as a way of replacing oppressors, that is, to be like the oppressors. For the oppressor, to be in this world means to have and to have more. For the oppressed, to be in this world is to be under and to like the oppressors. In other words, the oppressed internalize the image of the oppressors within themselves. Therefore, the struggle for liberation by the oppressed, together with those in solidarity with them, becomes a struggle by man in the process of achieving freedom with no distinction between oppressed and oppressors. It becomes thus an act of love as against the lovelessness and false generosity which characterizes the oppressor. Therefore, freedom has to be acquired by conquest, that is, by positive action. It has to be pursued constantly and responsibly. This has to be carried out as a fight against oppression in a situation where the world and men are in interaction. Hence, the need in this fight for praxis, which itself is a process of interaction between the reflection and action. Thus arises a need for pedagogy of the oppressed. It means there exists a need to explain the masses of their own action. It must necessarily lead to dialogue, the revolutionary transformation of the reality which the liberation movements involves necessitates a pedagogy with and not for the people. Therefore, it has to be achieved through educational projects because the oppressors, who are the rulers, control systematic education, and education is only a subsystem of the system as a whole. Therefore, this pedagogy must be humanist, that is subjective, and not humanitarian or objective. Now let us understand the principles of pedagogy of the oppressed. Both oppressor and oppressed are involved in the process of dehumanization. Secondly, education should aware oppressed about the nature of exploitation. Education should help to raise the questions and explore the reasons for exploitations, poverty, and one's condition. Education should help them to believe that the situation can be changed, though it is challenging. Oppressors need to be empathetic towards the oppressed. Conscientization is the process which will aware oppressed of their self and aware about their right to live like human being. Now, the process of conscientization. The oppressed is a group who is helpless and do not have resources, so bound to have frustration, anxiety, and is humiliated by the oppressor. On the other hand, the oppressors have resources, weapons for violence, power, and authority. The oppressed should be united to fight against humiliation and the system denying the right to be a human being. They should raise questions and try to reason so as to establish cause-effect relationship. It is also important that one has to take action against the system of exploitation. It is not the fight between individual but against the system developed by the selfish human beings who are enjoying their life at the cost of others. The process of understanding self help to develop self-identity, self-existence for self and in relation to others. It makes aware about the hierarchies which violate the human rights. This need cooperative efforts to take action and change social order. According to Freire, the education system is responsible for the present societal structure, which he explained in the concept of banking of education. Now, let us understand the banking of education. This concept is based on the assumptions that human behavior should be controlled. Knowledge in considered as non-living thing or object. Student who stores knowledge is away from the social reality. The student activity should be oriented by teachers. In other words, it can be said that the student stores the knowledge which is deposited by the teacher. The banking of education hampers the creativity and makes education process a mechanical activity which is absolutely dissociated from social reality, and therefore Freire opposed the banking of education and advocates the adult education to be carried out in a way which is connected with the life of people and social reality that help an individual to create own knowledge. He advocated dialogue as a method of acquiring knowledge. Now let us understand the dialogue method. Andragogy is the base of adult education, and dialogue method advocated by Freire can be very useful in understanding problems and overcome it, thereby discussing various alternatives. Every human being is curious being and want to explore the world around. Freedom should be provided so that individual can identify self. The teacher and the learner both discuss the problem freely and give one's opinion to each other. The interactions between individuals help to understand the problem from different angles. The different angles to look into a problem influences the thinking and also help in reorganizing thoughts, raise doubts and critically examine the ideas. The reasoning helps to understand the situation holistically and can find solution to improve the situation or condition or problems. Now let us understand the characteristics of dialogue method. Dialogue method is based on love, empathy and trust. No member in the learning group tries to put down other but respect the thought and idea. This method believes in co-creation, which means to solve problem collectively rather than expecting someone outsider to solve it. There should be critical thinking to change the situation and believe in capacity to change the situation. Thought is the basis of interaction, so no one criticizes individual but try to find out feasibility of the solutions. In other words, the group is problem focused and not a person focused. According to Freire, dialogue can change the world, and in societies where we have inequalities, injustice, it can be a powerful tool to bring change in order to create a humanistic. Thank you and all the best.